Okay, howdy, Shauna there here, coming to you from Vermont. So we have Shauna Karish with Ask Shauna Answers and Questions. Anyway, so I'm in Vermont, and I pointed out in the last video, but I'm going to point it out again in case you didn't see the other one. It is Lake Champlain behind us, and the Adirondacks across the lake there, and it's really, really pretty, but it's really hazy today. But it's lovely and green, and I'm sorry you're not all here. Anyway, so today's question comes from Meg, and she says, "Hi Shauna, my 10-month-old Fjord gelding can get very excitable during sessions. He will paw and circle and just throw out all kinds of behavior. If nothing works, he can get upset and almost angry with pinned ears and turns his behind to me. It can be quite frightening and very disheartening. Oh, my first object with him is calmness and emotional control, but when he does get this way." Oh, that's my first object with him is calmness and emotional control, but when he gets this way, I don't know what to do. I've tried just stopping and walking away, but that doesn't seem to help. Should I wait for him to calm down and then click for calmness for a while, or should I just wait for him to calm down and then keep going when we're working on before he flipped the switch? What should I do? Please help. Thank you. Okay, Meg, and I'm going to apologize because a lot of these, I had some camera issues for a little bit, so some of these are really old questions by now, but I still want to help you, and I want to apologize for it being so long, and I got things sorted out and it won't be so long next time. And in addition, I'm going to start doing podcasts, which I'll keep you guys informed of. But anyway, so what you're seeing there is a Fjord, a baby. He's 10 months old. So babies typically on their own, they don't have very good emotional control or impulse control because they're babies and they just think, I want to do what I want to do now, and that's all I know. And so we kind of have that going on. So when you come in, he's like, yay, I love doing this. I just want to do this. I just want to do this. But there's also inherent stress in learning. So as we come in and he's thinking, I don't know what to do, and I don't know what to do, and he's a baby who has all that energy, and you're thinking, I want calmness. And he's thinking, oh, but I just want to do stuff. He doesn't quite understand, so we have to compromise and take little steps towards calmness. So ideally, we want him just to be a calm little, emotionally controlled little guy who goes, I know I feel like being a baby, but I'm just going to pull it together. But we have to start very slow. So one of the things I would look for him to do, and him throwing out all that stuff, he thinks that, it means it tells you kind of another thing, that he sees a higher reinforcement value on doing stuff than he does on standing still. So what we want to do is shift and make standing quietly be the most reinforcing behavior ever, working on calmness as we go. So ideally, we want to just see this little guy. It's like, I'm cool, I'm mellow, and I'm good, but he doesn't understand that yet. He doesn't have that skill. So we have to shape that skill by looking for tiny increments of control, calmness. So he probably gets in, and first of all, first thing I would do, I wouldn't approach his stall when he is all excited. So if he sees you coming and he starts getting all wound up and thinking, here you come, I would just wait. I just might kind of turn and wait for a little bit, watch out of the corner of my eye until I saw him, and he's going to go watch for a little bit. He might paw, he might do all his stuff. At some point, he's going to go, I guess she's not coming. And when he does that, that's when I'd get there. So he starts learning the way to get you there is to be calm. So that's the first place you can start, because if we become all of the training and all the parts of the training, become a conditioned reinforcer. So if we approach, he's then thinking, yay, you're reinforcing him. So whatever he's doing at the time, he's going to repeat and think, this is how I get my reinforcement, which is my person, which is the opportunity to do this new game that I love. So we want to be sure that we approach when he's nice and calm. Another thing you can do before you even get to that point, though, that I need to mention, is try to help set him up for success. So try to do it at a time when maybe he's more apt to be quiet. Maybe it's a time after he's played and run around. Maybe you're doing it even after his dinner where he might be a little slower and not quite so food motivated. So whatever might help him to be calmer and more settled, utilize that and try and make that the time that you do those sessions so that it can... So try to do it during those times, and it's here, this is Bella. Yeah. Anyway, so try to do it during those times so that you can so that you're setting him up for success, because this little baby with all that energy, so turn him out with his other buddies and where he can play and romp and stomp and let him get that out of his system. So that can help set him up for success. Then don't approach until he's calm, and even if you have to wait him out for a little bit, when you're consistent with that, he'll start learning, this is how I get her here, but not through all that tension. And then what you need to do is start making the calm quiet more reinforcing than the doing. But intrinsically with babies, just inherently, I guess is a better word, they like to do. They're babies. You know, so he's like, I want to do energy, and I want to play, and I want to play with people, and I want to, you know, play with everything. So standing still is probably the toughest thing for him to do. So we have to look for it in little tiny increments. So, you know, so he's going to start with that turning the head away, but a lot of times, like with a baby, they're like, I'm turning my head away, and I'm turning my head away, and turning my head away. That's not relaxed. But we need to start there. So then I would start looking for the times when maybe he turns his head away, you click and reinforce, and look for it to be a little calmer if you can, but sometimes you can't get there. Sometimes you have to take something so you can kind of start getting him a little settled. So when he turns his head away and he's still eating, he's probably at this point not coming to you and seeking, but he's standing kind of quietly because he's got a mouthful. He's a little more preoccupied. So right after you fed him, he'll probably be quiet. So I click and reinforce again. So he's probably going, oh, good, and he's not thinking yet. I click and reinforce that because it's still a little bit more quiet. And then you just kind of have to shape it down bit by bit, recognizing that you're working towards the goal of standing quietly. Also in there, I'm just going on and on. Also in there, what you can do to give him a little break is have him walk a little bit with you, or do something that have him do a behavior that does let him burn off a little energy. So that kind of becomes a reward unto itself, because you're saying, okay, you'll get to go do something for a minute, which is not just standing still, which is harder for a baby, so it's kind of reinforcing, and then say, okay, now let's come back and work for standing still for a little increment. So build it up over time. I worked with Commerce and Dolphins, and they had, when I first started working with them, they had a attention span of 30 seconds. And they'd already been worked with for 3 years. And so then they said, okay, you're going in, and I thought, what are we going to do? It's 3 years of training. They have 30 seconds. We can't. It's hard to train in 30 seconds. So kind of looked at what some of the employed some of the techniques they did with the attention deficit children or autistic children, and trying to build that time. So what we do, we'd stand for, 30 seconds was their max. So we stood for like, okay, we're going to be here for 20 seconds. After 20 seconds, everybody move, because they like to move. So we utilize that moving as a reinforcer for them as well, and then put more reinforcement on the standing quietly, less on the activity. So you kind of got scales that are out of balance. He finds moving and doing stuff more reinforcing than, these are the scales, more reinforcing than the standing quietly. So each time you get a chance to reinforce the quiet and the calm, you're putting more weight on the side of the scale, so he'll make a choice for the one that has the greatest reinforcement history, and right now it's activity. Pretty soon he'll make the choice for standing quietly. So I hope that helps you out. Let me see. So look for that calm, and just remember, he doesn't think he's being bad. He just doesn't know what to do, and he's like, I don't know what the right answer is. So he's kind of doing what a baby wants to do. So we want to start with that. Another exercise I'm going to talk to you about very briefly, and maybe I'll answer this another thing, is leading exercise. Sometimes as I teach a baby to lead, I have them lead like for 2 steps and then stop. And that downward transition and that stopping is what I pay a lot of attention to and reinforce heavily, because that is the beginning of that emotional control. So if you go too fast, you're going to get too much excitement from your little guy. So I just take a couple steps and stop. As he comes down to stop with you, click and reinforce that downward transition. It's emotional, it's physical, all of that. So practicing some of those leading exercises, and I like to do at Liberty if you have the facility to do that, because then he's making the entire choice. It's not, you're not creating it with a manufactured thing, but he has to learn to watch you and pay attention. Anyway, okay, Megan, that's a lot of stuff in there. So I hope that all helps you out. If you have more questions, I'm kind of got this stuff worked out, so I'll get to you very quickly, or you may have moved past some things, but please don't hesitate to get a hold of me at AskShauna.com. You know where that is, and I'd love to hear an update of how you're doing with your little guy. Anyway, if you or anybody else has questions, like I said, you can go to AskShauna.com. You can go to my Facebook page, which is Ask Shauna. How convenient. Anyway, until next time, enjoy getting your horse on target. Bye.